People often ask, how long will a 3D printed structure last? Well, this castle behind me has been sitting here for 10 years. The legendary Andrey Rudenko printed it as the first printed structure in America, and we're gonna get a chance to see how it's lasted over a decade of sitting out in his backyard. So, Andrey, when you first built this structure, how long were you expecting it to last?
A couple months. I did not plan to leave it. I was planning to destroy it. It was just part of experiment.
And what was the goal of that experiment?
Mostly about how tall can I do, because nobody printed before such a tall structure at that time. I experimented with smaller structure like 2-3 feet, and finally decided to do something bigger, and I wasn't sure if it's possible at all. I believe in that, but had to test it.
And did you need a permit for this building?
Unfortunately, yes, I had to get. I started to print, and in a few days neighbors start to complain I'm doing something illegal.
As they do.
And my neighbors, the printer looks very strange. It was a lot of cables and wires. So my neighbor asked me, Andrey, is it like antenna to send signal to Russia? Yeah, directly to Putin.
Remember, this was 10 years ago, so that wasn't, I guess, so concerning at the time. The max height of the printer is about the top of the wall.
It was the biggest possible that time I was able to print. And actually, I spent another probably months to get permit, because nobody really understand what I'm talking about. I said, I want to print a castle. How it's possible to print a castle? I said, okay, concrete, it's going to be concrete. They just like, we don't know what is that. But finally guys decided, okay, how about if you're going to print a shed or playground? Okay, playground is good. So technically it's playground.
And it's sitting on dirt, or is there a foundation?
There's no foundation. I did not plan to keep it. Basically it's sitting on dirt and not much reinforcement.
What's the reinforcement schedule like?
All kind of leftovers I had in my garage. Something like that.
Chicken wire.
Yeah. Maybe a couple of rebars, but not much.
Can we take a closer look?
Sure.
You have one of the thinner layer heights, which gives you a high resolution, and these all seem remarkably consistent. A lot of the newer prints aren't even, especially considering it was printed outside, they aren't this consistent, and you often see a lot of cracking, maybe every 6 or 8 feet, which I don't see present here. What kind of weather conditions has this survived?
Well, it's Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
We have -40 Fahrenheit, and summertime, sometime up to 110. So all kind of weather conditions, rain, rain kind of freeze, snow, everything. So basically it was like worst possible weather conditions for 10 years.
I would think printed concrete with all the grooves and crevices would be susceptible to freeze-thaw cycles.
That's what I was kind of afraid of, but it was part of experiment. And I left it without roof actually for a reason. I wanted to know how many months or maybe a couple of years are gonna stay before it start to crack, but it's staying now for 10 years. Nothing happened. Looks pretty much same like it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, at this point, I would feel pretty safe betting it will be standing in another 10 years.
Possibly, but better make a roof.
True.
Or at least a sealer, using some kind of sealer, or I'm not gonna use paint, but sealer probably have to apply.
It's certainly an interesting case study, completely exposed to all the elements with no roof, no window flashings. It's a typical house you'd hope would last maybe 75 or 100 years. I think that's how the banks write mortgages on them. So if a printed house would hopefully either meet or extend that, that lifespan.
If it's properly printed, properly reinforced, it's gonna stay more than 100 years for sure. A few hundred years probably.
And how did you mix all of this material back here?
Mostly manually, just a regular mixer, and I just mix cement, sand, some additives, and load it manually using bucket. It was pretty hard. Print, change speed and everything, and mix material and load buckets to extruder. I would not do it again.
These days, would you use an MTech mixer or some kind of batch plant mixer?
We have a few different design mixing systems. For smaller project, it's kind of easier. And actually you saw on my job site, it was kind of mixing system. We can use cement, bags of cement and just sand and mix it together. But we have more advanced mixing systems that's using dry mix for bigger projects.
So the infill under the window, between the inner and outer layer, you have an inch about of backfill. Is that the same as the steps?
It's regular, yeah, it's similar, same material. It's only about 1 inch. The reason was only because I was short of money. I tried to make it. The mix for infill, it's regular concrete.
You mix that on site in a barrel mixer?
Yeah. But the mix for layers, it's kind of more custom mix. Nothing special, but it's more fine. For infill, it's more coarse.
What program did you design the castle in?
Oh, I don't really remember.
It's a long time ago.
Probably SketchUp or something.
Yeah, before it was bought by Trimble. It used to be a Google product, SketchUp.
Yeah, SketchUp works kind of, but not the best. And later I switched to Fusion 360. It works much better.
So then you probably exported an STL or STP file. And how did you get that turned into G-code for the printer?
I don't remember. It was 10 years ago.
When you have seams in the building like this that don't go up the entire length, that looks intentional since they're all in the same place.
Well, because it's a kind of automatic slicing system. It's not manual, and if it does not have any 90-degree corners, they're gonna make that connection of layers any place the slicer wants. Now I'm trying always do 90-degree, because 90-degree for the program is kind of, it usually start and stop at 90-degree corners.
So everything above that wall line was prefabricated and placed on after the print?
Yeah, we printed it like right here. But you know, when I designed it, it was kind of easy to design on screen. It was kind of nice and looks not too heavy. But when I printed it, I just figured out, okay, how are we gonna lift it? So I had to call my friends and several friends. We barely just, it was not easy.
Manpower only, no.
It's really heavy materials. I would never do it again. Everything I'm trying to print on place. Not much printed parts to install now.
And everything below the wall was printed one layer at a time up through the whole process?
What do you mean?
So you didn't do that half and then move on to this half of the building. It was all one print, the entire layer.
Yeah, it was one print entire layer. I just designed this size of castle. It was biggest possible by zoning, by code, by permit. And they made printers just slightly more than it was possible to print here.
Very cool. Yeah, it's really incredible how with all the vines and everything, they haven't worked their way through the layers, and you don't see cracking, and a lot of times in printed buildings you'll see a crack all the way straight through the wall. When you see it at the top, the layers kind of lose a little bit of the perfect consistency they have at the bottom. Is that because of all the turns, or?
No, it's because I try to make smaller layers. It was part of, okay, this layer is 10 millimeters. That layers for crown molding was 5 millimeters only. I was experimenting, I was thinking it's gonna be kind of better resolution, but I failed because the grain size of the mix was about 5 millimeters, so it kind of rough. Better 5 millimeters is too small.
So these windows are great because they don't need an overhang or a lintel. How did you manage these square windows?
Just piece of plywood or cardboard.
And then you removed it so the concrete's supporting itself.
Oh, by the way, it's old extruder.
Oh, cool.
I keep it here just in case.
Yeah, this building's really ahead of its time with all the details. It's a lot of the things people promise are exciting about 3D printed construction demonstrated a long time ago.
Well, it's also about speed of printing. If you want to make something smaller, it's possible to make thinner layers and make it kind of more precise. But when you're talking about printing a house, large house, like 1,000 square feet, 2,000, 3,000 square feet, of course we're gonna make like ½ inch, 3/4, twice or 3 times more, and it will not be so precise like this castle.
So you'd increase the layer height.
Sometimes yes, if I need speed. For example, when we were printing in Texas, it was really hot and it's just impossible to print slow. We must print fast.
What was the most productive print day?
Well, I don't remember exactly about the castle. Probably 1 foot, maybe 2 feet. But now we're trying to print about usually 2 feet in 1 day.
And much bigger footprint as well. In Texas, what's the reason you need to move fast?
Because it's heat, it's hot. It's hot and water just evaporating and starting to crack, so we have to put more layers to prevent cracks.
So you have less time to get to the next layer to get a monolithic structure?
The next layer supplying water to previous layer. It's continued process. If you stop, that's it. It's gonna be crack. So we had to print fast, really fast.
You mentioned even for this castle one day it was 106 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it was surprisingly. Minnesota is kind of north state and we don't have much heat here. But exactly that time when I printed it, one day it was 106 degree and humidity, you know, almost 100%, I don't know, maybe 90% humidity. All my helpers just gone, just walk away. And I had to finish myself.
Some days are like that. That's what it's like being a CEO and founder, right?
It was students. They just want to make research and development. I said, okay, if you want to make research development, we have sand, we have cement, mixer, buckets, go ahead. And they worked a few hours and it was hot, humidity, and by the way, it was also mosquitoes. So they just ran away.
Yeah, those mosquitoes will get to you. Some great recycling you have down at the bottom. Is that a layer that wasn't so good of printing, so you removed it and then?
It was another experiment. Actually, it was experiment of lightweight material for California.
Yeah, it's certainly much lighter than the equivalent would be with regular concrete.
Yeah, it's special material developed for California. It's fireproof, absolutely fireproof, I mean. But we tried to print in California and too much bureaucracy and probably requires a lot of money to start to print there. But material is ready for printing in California.
The material's ready for printing in California?
Yeah, we have system.
Fire resistance.
System, I mean construction system. How to print earthquake proof, tornado proof, hurricane proof, and fire proof also. I was in California for about a month to provide all kind of investigation what's going on there about the housing problem, about wildfire. I met with many people. People need houses, fireproof houses, because it's really common there, like wildfire. But the problem is, if you remember that Paradise City wildfire, it was 20,000 houses just gone overnight. The problem is people never get insurance coverage. The houses was insured for fire, but insurance says, okay, if it's fire inside the house, we're gonna cover it. Outside, we are not gonna cover it. And people still have no money. They still live in trailers and RVs. But material is ready, machines are ready. If somebody wants fireproof houses, yeah, we can do it. But now I'm more focusing on tornado-proof houses.
I was about to ask, is this house seen a tornado?
We developed construction system tornado-proof. So the walls gonna be 100% proof for any tornado, any bigger tornado, major tornadoes. Roof system, yeah, we also have roof system that kind of gonna withstand any major tornadoes. That's what I'm focusing now, because every day I just watch YouTube about weather and I see it's another city just wiped by tornado. It's crazy, almost every day. Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and people still want better housing, better houses, but because no choice, they have to rebuild using stick frame technology, which is weird for that area.
It makes sense that 3D printed construction would start in the areas where it provides extra value for the thick, heavy concrete, where that would be stronger, whether it's a fire scenario or a tornado scenario. And then with all the development in those areas, it can reach hopefully a bigger scale and be useful even places that don't have those requirements.
Well, for 100 years here in the US we have stick frame technology, and all the industry works only for that technology. We have lumber, we have everything. Engineers studied, getting education in college only about stud frame technology, and it's really hard to switch mind about it could be different kind of housing. We spent many years trying to do it, but finally we just decided, okay, we're just gonna do it ourselves, not gonna talk much about that. Now we're taking orders on such houses, and we have a few projects we're gonna print later this year, tornado-proof houses, hurricane-proof houses.
Yeah, very cool. And you mentioned later on in this podcast we could talk about the line item cost sheet for the project you did with Von Perry near Dallas.
Yeah. Usually we're busy with printing processes. We don't care much about writing down all the details.
Sure.
But on that project, we just decided, okay, it's enough. We have to finally write down and calculate all the expenses. Yeah, I'm gonna show you that spreadsheet later.
Yeah, that'll be fascinating to see. You guys will have to wait and find out for that. Can we sit down?
Sure.
Or before we do, maybe we can show them the bunnies. How long ago did the little bunnies move in there?
I don't know how old is. I'm not
A bunny expert.
Yeah, my cat is expert. I'm trying to save their life.
You see there's a couple little ears in there. They're living in the castle. Any other animals lived in the castle before that?
I don't know. Bunny for sure. And actually you see the second one nest.
Make sure not to step on that.
No, there's no bunnies already.
Oh, okay. It's been a couple generations of bunnies.
Yeah. maybe some more. That also was part of experiment about for fireproof material.
Really cool.
I can show you that material if you want.
So what are we looking at here?
It's gonna be red.
This is fireproof concrete because regular concrete would be cracking and brittle, right?
Yep.
And you're just holding it in your hand so the heat transfer is not burning you.
I can do it for like hours. I mean, keep in my hand. And now is a trick. Wanna touch?
Oh my gosh, that was red hot a second ago, and now I wouldn't hold my hand on it for too long, but I can certainly touch it. It's wild.
Okay, and another material. We also have another material.
What needs to happen from a regulation perspective to use that in California for fireproofing?
Less bureaucracy. Because first, we probably have to print a house on some areas there's no need permit. And we're gonna bring a lot of engineers to test that material. They're gonna need to test it themselves. If I'm going to talk about that, we can talk like hours. See it kind of melting at higher temperature.
But not burning your hand.
But it's really good insulation.
All right, cool. So we saw the 3D printed castle standing in amazing condition after 10 years.
Looks similar like before.
Yeah, and it's like the Hive project in Round Top. You added a couple colors in the layers.
Yeah, but round up we do it for a reason. We try to make a design. For castle, I just use all kind of leftover for, grout for tiles.
So that's how you get the blue line and the red line.
Yeah.
We sat down and talked for an hour about the history of Total Custom and the legend Andrey Rudenko's story, the suspicious disappearance of one of his early founders, and much more. So if you're interested in the history of 3D printed construction and its future, make sure to listen to that Automate Construction podcast episode at our podcast channel, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Check out the link in the description.